All right, I have something very important to talk to you about.
All right.
Fart jokes.
Oh, yes, go on.
Where do you stand, or rather, where do you sit on them?
That one was okay. I'm not a big fan of fart jokes. If it's expertly done, it's like, oh, that's brilliant. I'm trying to think of a great fart joke.
Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
It's the scene that everybody talks about. But for me, that's like my least favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah.
A bunch of guys that are sitting around eating beans. Come on, you can do better than that.
That was momentous because it was probably the first fart joke ever in a movie, and it went on forever. If it was 1973, we might be singing a different tune with our butts.
We know about the first joke ever discovered. I believe it's Sumerian. Something which has never occurred since time immemorial. A young woman did not fart in her husband's lap. That was a joke back in the caveman days.
Yes, 3,000 years ago.
So farts are funny, but fart jokes are so easy and cheap that it's actually difficult to carry them off.
Even in The Lady Killers, when the Coen brothers tried a fart joke, it really wasn't that good.
Funny you should mention that. Have you seen the movie Gambit? It's a remake of a movie from the 60s with Michael Caine. It was written by the Coen brothers, but not directed by them. And it contains a fart joke that might be the funniest fart joke I've ever seen/heard. And it elevates the fart joke to high art.
It's good to know that they can pull it off while pulling the finger.
I've got a bunch of movies that I've never seen before. You don't know what they are. Every episode, I'm going to spring one on you. It might be good. It might be bad. We'll watch it and talk about it. Welcome to the basement. A few episodes ago, I mourned the fact that after Barry Lyndon, there were no new Stanley Kubrick films for me to watch. I had watched them all.
Yes.
But in the words of Yoda, there is another. You thought Killer's Kiss was his first movie. Think again. He made a film before that. It flopped at the box office and disappeared for decades. There were rumors that Kubrick was acquiring all the prints, so no one would ever see this film. But an original copy was found in 2010 in a Puerto Rican film laboratory. It was restored, remastered, and re-released in 2012, and it's right here in this envelope.
Kubrick can't stop us. He's dead, and if he was alive, he wouldn't get on a plane to get here because he was afraid of flying, and he lived across the ocean. Yes!
Halloween may be over, but the fear remains. Fear and desire.
Here we go. I knew there was another one out there somewhere.
I'll tell you all about it. Released in 1953, starring Frank Silvera and Paul Mazursky. This is his film debut. Kubrick borrowed the film's $10,000 budget from his uncle, a successful pharmacist. The film was not a box office success, although allegedly film critic James Agee loved it.
I didn't know he was still alive in 1953.
He was.
He's busy drinking himself to death, but still alive for this.
He watched this movie, and then shortly after he died.
Kubrick can't get any better.
It quickly fell into obscurity, prints became scarce, but it still managed to show up at a few public screenings in the 1990s. Kubrick himself discouraged these viewings, referring to the film as a bumbling amateur film exercise. How bumbling could it possibly be? We're gonna find out. This is a movie about war, and if you're ever in a combat situation, you need to protect yourself. I pray you never have to use this, but here is your gift.
Matt, do you know what a war is? It's a water gun.
Only use that in self-defense, Craig, never in aggression. I would hate to see you convicted of first-degree squirt slaughter.
That's right. This would be a weapon of last resort in a war, I should say.
Well, give me it back if you don't want
against vampires. No.
Ingrate?
No, I'll use it.
You're not going to use it against me.
Maybe I won't. Where's your bathroom again?
Won't you journey with us into the past and watch a film that I never even knew existed 5 days ago, as we check out Stanley Kubrick's film debut, Fear and Desire. I don't want to give anything away here, but this movie also ends with the main character turning into a space fetus.
Okay, good.
There is war in this forest.
Soldiers from an unspecified nation are fighting an unspecified war, and they're trapped 6 miles behind enemy lines. There's Lieutenant Corby, who is very well-spoken, Mac, who's a salt-of-the-earth type of fella, Sidney, who's just a kid,
And a goofus.
and Fletch, who's... Fletch.
Once you understand how a mousetrap works, if you're clever enough, you can use it as a springboard.
We're fighting mice? They need to get to the river to make it to safety.
Have you guys seen Deliverance? I only saw the first half of it. It looks like fun.
One foot fights the other. Faster. The sun is fast. Hill's ahead.
Get there before it burns.
Bread and butter.
Time for night soon.
More to look up later. All the twigs cracking in my head.
What's her name? The Harry Truman's daughter. Why can't I remember that?
My favorite Jimmy Dorsey songs, in order, are...
Cosby, maybe they're smarter than they think. After a bit of wandering around, they find the river and they build themselves a raft.
What do you want?
I'd like you to see something.
I found a whole stack of porno magazines. They look around with their binoculars and they see a house where enemy soldiers are, and they see that there's a general there. But before they get a chance to use it, they're chased off by a plane. Get out of the way of the stock footage.
We have to get out of here. What were we thinking? Leave the raft, and they run.
Come on, you crumb bums. Someone should say crumb bum at some point.
That night, they come upon a cabin. Mid-century modern. There's a couple soldiers in there eating some stew.
That's me. Hey, how you doing?
Don't eat stew.
This isn't sneaking music. Hungry for food and hungry for guns, they break into the cabin and they stab. Whole lot of stabbing going on. Those guys are dead. They get the guns and big sloppy bowls of stew. And Sidney grabs a little bit of an existential crisis. He just helped kill 2 people. He just might be slipping away sanity-wise. Yippee! We got guns now! Yippee!
This one's for fighting! This one's for fun!
They're both for fun! Looking for their raft, they come across a peasant girl who doesn't speak English.
Take her captive.
They can't have her running off to the enemy and giving away their position.
And my arm's getting tired.
This dame keeps breathing on my hand.
My arm's getting tired.
Called it. They tie her to a tree.
They remember that raft they built yesterday. Oh yeah, the raft plan, floating to safety.
Sidney, you'll stay here with the young lady until we come back.
It'll be towards the end of the war.
Turns out Sidney's a little less stable than everyone thought he was. He falls in love with this girl.
He starts hugging up against her.
Watch. I'll make you laugh. Look, I'm the general.
And he lampoons the general that they saw back at the house before. The rest of the gang, they find the raft.
And I want to talk to you about that house down the road. And the general.
You know, the general. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
The general.
Sure. Meanwhile, back at the tree, relations with the girl have not improved any. He creepily rubs himself against her.
He's like, I'll just loosen your constraints just a little bit.
So she can wrap those arms around him and they can make love or something. But she runs off.
Don't tell the general!
And he shoots her because he thinks she's going to tell old...
No one is spoken with.
He's shutting down like Hal.
Daisy.
Mac comes back and sees what's happened. Sidney goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
And now I'm a fish. Hurrah for the magicians!
And runs off. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, he says.
They can't find him and they realize they have to leave a man behind. There's a little argument about whether they should all float over in the raft or whether they should try to take out the general's headquarters.
You make me laugh.
But not as much as Sidney. He was hilarious. Have you seen his general routine?
34 years old. I've never done anything important. When this is over, I'll fix radios and washing machines.
They'll say, Mac, why is my washing machine playing music? You did it wrong. And I can't fit my pants into my radio.
What do you say, Fletch?
What do I say? Rosen. The lieutenant doesn't really want to die at all. He just wants to get to the other side of the lines.
Why is your life so precious?
If I knew a decent answer to it, I'd shout it, publish it, write it on walls with chalk.
The group decides to take out that general.
Good luck, Mac.
I'll always hold you in my heart. Good luck.
What time is it?
Big cookie time.
Back at the house, the general reunites with his dog. The general's buddy is this guy who drinks a lot of shots and just kind of smiles. Mac takes the raft downriver.
I'll make a distraction by shooting at the soldiers. Then you two guys, you go in, you kill the general who's probably going to stay at the house, and then hop in the plane, and I'll meet you on the other side of the lines. There's a plane there. I forgot to say that earlier. The Germans or whatever's planes.
You know why he's drinking all those shots? Because it's his birthday.
I'm 37. I'm going to do 37 shots.
Alone, like the North Pole in the middle of the night.
Say, I should write a novel. I got a way with words up in my brain hole. Maybe I can put them down on a paper.
No more Sundays.
I'm getting too fat.
We haven't heard much about the inner life of Fletch.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Fletch.
And Mac sure is distracting.
Come on out of your tent, you half-witted cannibals!
All the soldiers run out and they gun him down. But Corby and Fletch go to the house and they kill the general.
The horror.
And then the general comes crawling out the front door and he says,
I surrender.
and maybe the lieutenant sees a little bit of himself in the general. Whoa. Whoa. The lieutenant and Fletch hop into the plane and they fly off to safety. Mac is floating down the river dying, and he comes upon a familiar silhouette.
Hey, I was just hanging out with this guy named Colonel Kurtz. He's really cool. He hops on the raft and they continue floating down the river.
Fletch and the lieutenant report back to the base. They go down to the river to see if any of their friends turn up.
I think we've all traveled too far from our own private boundaries. Better come back to ourselves.
It's all a trick we perform when we'd rather not die.
Fear and desire.
I am the mountain. What did you think of the movie, folks?
We've all traveled too far from our own private boundaries. We've got to get back to ourselves. Such are the very inner struggles of fear and desire.
That movie sure was trying to say something.
It said quite a few things.
Yep. Don't know what it said, but it sure was trying.
I really liked it.
You did?
I thought it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
I'd want to see it again just so I can kind of put some pieces together. So I get like really listen to all the voiceover stuff going through it.
It's all about the insanity of war and how war makes everyone crazy in a certain way, you know,
Yeah.
which is explored in Apocalypse Now. And I think it's very ahead of his time. This is 1953. And it does not look like a movie from 1953. The photography is beautiful. Kubrick was a still photographer for Look magazine. And so he comes into filmmaking knowing all about shot composition and exposure and all those things. And, you know, what he doesn't know is working with actors and, you know, directing actors. He doesn't have that deftness, which I'm never sure he really had. I mean, I think he was not very much an actor's director.
No, he wasn't.
It really surprised me how similar this was to Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line.
I was thinking that too, with all of the voiceover.
Yeah.
There had to be some sort of influence between the two. Terrence Malick, just give us a call to let us know. If you look at Kubrick's career, it seemed as though he gave himself lots of challenges, where it's like, I'm going to make a horror movie, but the best horror movie. I'm going to make a sci-fi movie, but the best ones. And so he goes through all these different genres. The theme that he always went back to was war. Spartacus, Paths of Glory,
Full Metal Jacket,
and Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, yeah.
So it must be the thing that upset him the most.
Speaking of war, what do you think was the purpose of having the war be a made-up war and even the country that the soldiers are from not specified?
First, to make war universal,
Right.
something that happens to all nations.
To separate conflict from ideology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not fighting the Nazis, we're not fighting the Koreans.
But also when it gets to the point where the soldiers are feeling bad about it, we don't have American soldiers feeling bad about killing Germans.
Right. The jingoism of war is totally removed when it's just like A versus B. So then you can focus on the internal conflict of people.
The girl is basically molested in a movie from 1953.
Yeah, that's another reason why it's a country that is not our country and a war that is not our war. So you could do stuff like that, and you could never have a World War II American soldier raping a girl in a movie and people wouldn't stand for it because those boys defeated Hitler.
Mm-hmm. So the movie's called Fear and Desire.
Yeah.
They didn't seem that afraid.
Everybody's afraid. Corby is afraid to die. He says it.
Yeah.
Mac is he's just afraid of everything. Sydney is afraid of rejection. And
Fletch
who cares
is
about
afraid
Fletch?
that no one will know anything about his character. All right, so that's the fear. Where's the desire?
Well, the desire for the girl.
The girl.
There you go. Fear and desire.
So why is Dr. Strangelove strange and loving? Smart guy.
What do we see of the Kubrick that we know in this early effort?
The shots of the general and the captain together, it felt very much like certain scenes in Dr. Strangelove, even double casting. You know?
That was weird.
Lieutenant Corby and the general. Whoa!
Oh, Fletcher and the captain were played by the same guy. I had no idea.
No.
Never would have guessed.
It's funny what a change in uniform can do. I'm not going to say that I like this movie, but I liked a lot of aspects of it.
I expected it to be a lot more rough around the edges. I expected it to be a lot duller.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't either of those things. I think this is a better movie than Killer's Kiss. All right, Fear and Desire. Checked off. I've done it, Craig.
You've done it.
I've watched them all. But you know, he made some short films, didn't he? Well, the quest continues.
Yes.
If you desire to do something fun on the internet, never fear. You can go to our website, welcometothebasementshow.com. There's all kinds of stuff there, treasures to be unearthed. And there's a little PayPal donation button you can click on there. Donate to support this show. Don't make me inner monologue. Don't make me do it.
Money is not the most important aspect of life, but without it, there is no life. So does that make money the most important aspect of life? PayPal. Is it really a pal?
We've had some fine folks make some donations on the little PayPal dinghy, and here they are. Mark, who says, keep up the insightful, intelligent, and downright hilarious work. Your biggest Irish fan.
Ah.
Levi, who says, this is a great show. Jason, Gregor, Adam, Laura, your show really helps me win trivia nights with obscure movie knowledge. Yeah!
Yes!
Roy, Isaac, David, Thomas, who says, Billy Cuddy McGillicuddy here. Keep up the good work. Thomas, again, who says, hi, fellas, this is Earl Lee O'Hurley. Here's a few bucks so you can go split a cappuccino. Thomas, I'm sorry to reveal both of your secret identities, but that's how we do it here on the show. And Matthew, who says, well played, you swanky young gentleman. And now it's time for Seen It.
I'm a fish. Seen it.
For this very special Stanley Kubrick-centric episode, of course, our theme for Seen It is Stanley Kubrick.
Andy Mooney writes, if you guys have seen all the Kubrick films, which we have now, then you need to talk about them. Full Metal Jacket. Seen it!
The first half of the movie is a lot better than the second half.
If it wasn't for the me so horny thing, which is potentially really offensive, there's really nothing much going for the second half of the movie.
The climax is in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And then there's like an hour more movie to go to after. It's a very strangely constructed film.
We all know first half of the movie is great, second half of the movie is watchable.
We also know that is mighty cold. Maybe shouldn't have brought that up.
No.
Walrus Egg TV. Have you seen Dr. Strangelove? Watch Dr. Strangelove. Seen it.
Mein Führer, I've seen it!
Nice.
I have seen that movie any number of times. It's funnier every time I see it.
It really is. George C. Scott was very upset with Kubrick because Kubrick made him do a crazy take for everything where he did it really over the top and then he used all the crazy takes.
Yeah.
But that's one of the great comedic performances of the 60s.
Yeah, it's when he's like walking backwards and he falls and flips over and then he just keeps talking. That was amazing.
It might be my favorite Kubrick movie of all.
Andy Mooney, again, writes, and Eyes Wide Shut, seen it.
Ding, ding, ding. Seen it. Ding, ding. Little piano thing they do.
I've only seen it once. I saw it in the theater. And I grew many years while watching it. It was a very long ride for me. Did not enjoy it.
Wow, this is a really divisive Kubrick movie. A lot of people hate it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I loved the spaces of it. Every scene was a new little corner of the movie.
My main qualm with the movie is the casting of Tom Cruise, and not for my usual anti-Cruise stance. It's just that the original story that it's based on, Dream Story by Arthur Schnitzler, the character is Jewish. That's what is making him even more of an outsider in a Gentile world. So I think that the person who should have been cast in that movie was Ben Stiller, because he's handsome, he's Jewish, you can believe him as a doctor, and you can believe him going off on all these stupid adventures, but not being able to actually pull the trigger on anything.
Strong Start Onapan writes, Matt, you should make Craig watch AI Artificial Intelligence. I thought it was garbage, but most people like it, and I want to see what you think about it. Seen it.
Not seen it.
What are you waiting for?
Well, no one ever says that it is the greatest movie ever.
A lot of times people say just the opposite. This was something that Kubrick was working on as far back as the 70s. It was in development hell, so to speak, during his lifetime because he really wanted CGI to catch up because he felt like the main character needed to be computer generated. He didn't feel like there was a child actor who could play that role.
And unfortunately, he died before Haley Joel Osment came along, but that shouldn't have made a big difference because, as we all know, young Mr. Osmond could see dead people.
Truth be told, I don't remember much about this. I saw it more than 10 years ago. I remember Jude Law wears a very silly hair helmet.
Thanks for not making me watch it.
That could still happen.
You can't choose a movie you've seen.
But I can make you do things. Through force. Blonde Thought writes, how did they ever make a movie about Lolita? That is a line from the trailer for Lolita. Censorship, censorship, censorship. But it is a fun film that in a significant way captures the spirit of Nabokov's novel. Seen it.
Seen it.
And I am currently reading the novel right now.
It's a pretty good novel if you haven't heard.
It gets a little dull in the middle.
Yeah.
The prose is very dense. Character is kind of unlikable.
Beyond the fact that he is a pedophile, there's the fact that he's just an arrogant jackass.
Yeah.
Kubrick made the right choice when he invited Nabokov to write the screenplay of the novel. Because then Nabokov is killing his own babies, as it were. The not-so-secret weapon of that movie is Peter Sellers. God, he's just creepy every single moment he's on screen. You look at Kubrick, who was the most controlling director, Nabokov, who was the most controlling writer, and then you have this man comes in and is like, how about I improvise all of my lines? You can tell James Mason is just getting mad because he's like, I don't know how to improv. I'm an actor.
Say the script, Peter.
Yes.
Say the script. Can you do James Mason? James Mason.
I have James Mason right here.
He's very pinched at the edges.
Peter,
say the lines,
how about
Peter?
you let me talk, Matthew?
I'm trying to do
I'm
it too,
trying to
though.
do it too.
You're just copying my James Mason.
I led you down the road and you're like, oh, look at me, I'm here. I'm James Mason.
This is not The Trip, okay?
No, it's not. Just say the dialogue as it's written, Mr. Sellers.
Yeah, it's very good.
Thank you.
You did a good job.
Yeah, you get to do all the impersonations on this show. Let me have this.
Oh, is that what I do? I do all the impersonations.
Yes, you do.
I don't stop you from doing impersonations.
I don't stop you from doing impersonations.
Except now you are.
That's because I was doing mine first.
Stop.
All right, things are getting a little tense here in the basement, so it's a good time to say that's seen it.
And that's our show.
Thank you for taking a trip to war-torn somewhere or another with Fear and Desire. We hope you liked it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Go to our website, welcometothebasementshow.com, click on the dinghy, put money into the money hole, and like us on Facebook.
But then you can find out what movies we're watching in advance a lot of times.
Join us next time where we'll be watching another movie. What movie? Who knows?
I don't.
See you then.
Bye. Generals.
I remember that scene in Patton, where Patton takes the stage in front of the big American flag, and he's like, when you put your hand in a pile of goo that was your best friend's face, then...
And now I'm a fish.